Well, Allison, at this time yesterday, I was scrambling to get to an airport with that surprise announcement from Joe Biden that he was going to leave New Hampshire early and get here to South Carolina to make a statement to his local supporters here on the night of the New Hampshire primary. That should tell you everything about the Joe Biden strategy at this point. After a fifth-place showing in the primary there, after a fourth-place showing in Iowa, the Biden campaign insisting they're in this for the long haul and that their firewall in South Carolina is intact. Here's what Joe Biden had to say last night to his supporters here.
We just heard from the first two of 50 states, two of them. Not all the nation, not half the nation, not a quarter of the nation, not 10%, two. Now, where I come from, that's the opening bell, not the closing bell. And the fight to end Donald Trump's presidency is just beginning, Too often, your loyalty, your support, your commitment to this party have been taken for granted. I have never once in my career since I got involved as a kid taken it for granted. And I give you my word as a Biden, I never, ever, ever will. Now, if you want to know what any other candidates are going to do in the future, the tendency is to look at the past.
And so while some of the other candidates are talking about momentum, Joe Biden is talking about math. He said, listen, you need 1,900 delegates in order to be the nominee, and there's anywhere near that number that's been decided so far. He said that 99.8% of the electorate, that being the Latino vote, has not been reflected in these caucuses and primaries so far. He said 99% of the electorate, African-American vote, has not been reflected in this caucus so far. And he says that the African-American vote is the most important constituency in the Democratic Party, and he's not going anywhere until he has a chance to hear from them. So this is a firewall. Jim Clyburn, the congressman from South Carolina and the number 3 Democrat in the House, he offered an important vote of confidence for Joe Biden. Now, he hasn't endorsed in this race, but he just told reporters on Capitol Hill today that when he left to go back to Washington, Biden's firewall here in South Carolina was still intact. He also said that he's not worried about those results in Iowa and New Hampshire because those states don't reflect the electorate of the Democratic Party as a whole. So what's important now coming forward for Joe Biden? He still has to worry about money. He's going to be spending some time off the campaign trail, raising money in New York. He's also going to make an appearance on The View. And then he heads back on the campaign trail. He'll be in Nevada all weekend. That's the next state in the calendar here. There's going to be a debate on Wednesday next week, and that could be an important moment for Joe Biden in this respect. We've been talking about the African-American vote as important to Joe Biden, and we saw a new Quinnipiac poll this week that showed a real dip in support among that demographic. Mike Bloomberg was the biggest beneficiary of that. The Biden campaign is signaling that they want to go after the former mayor on his record in New York on issues like stop and frisk and other policing issues. That'll be an important debate for Joe Biden if he has a chance to do what he needs to do in order to get back momentum.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.